Clonex drop is the biggest of the week. The price keeps rising, people are taking over 300 ETH profits, and the secondary sales are 8 times higher than the next closest project. Let's jump in and check out the post-drop stats. So Clonex drop and anyone that got onto the whitelist is making an absolute killing right now. Now heading on over to OpenSea to get a snapshot of the project before we get into the price charts, we can see that the price floor is currently sitting at 6.35 ETH and the volume is at 28,000 ETH on these secondary sales. Having a look at Nansen to get a look at the market overview, we can see that Clonex is at number one with the sort of in the last 24 hours with 19,000 volume, and Axie Infinity, which is always up the top, is at 2,500 ETH. So you can see it's a huge factor of almost 8 when it comes down to the difference. So the amount of volume and secondary sales that are happening right now with Clonex are absolutely insane and people are going crazy for it. When we actually jump in and check out the project itself, we can see that it was deployed 54 hours ago. Now what we can see here is that the average price just keeps going up. Sure, it kind of like dips back and forth, but it just keeps going up. Now you can see here at the reveal day, the huge insane volume, these 2 bars, it just went absolutely nuts. People going hard for it. Now what I will say, it looks like there's a downtrend, but this last little bit here, this day is just opening, so we need to see where this closes to actually get an accurate representation of the data. So please don't take that into account. Now when we have a look at the individual transactions over this last sort of 24-hour period, we can see that it's in a very slight uptrend, but what I like here is that there are lots of purchases that are off the line, which means that people are picking and choosing what they actually want to get. And this is when you're getting this spread of people buying and not just near the average and near the floor. People are buying and picking what they actually want and what traits they think will be rarer and more valuable in the future. So when it comes down to it, that's what is interesting about this project, and I think is moving people, is the fact that it is so different. And that's another aspect that kind of puts a twist when it comes down to this project. Now, when we come down to the top balances, there are some huge holders in this project. We can see here that the top one, 204, next one 50, 120, and then we kind of end up rounding out the top 20 at around 68. Now this distribution is insane because even in larger projects, the top distribution, it might just sort of be 50 to 20, but it's crazy that some of these top guys are big heavy hitters when it comes down to what they're holding. And with the price floor at sort of almost 6.5 ETH, this is a huge insane bag when it comes down to the value of what they're actually holding, and it's very crazy. And then when you kind of bump across, it keeps going. There are lots of people that are holding a lot of these NFTs, so we can actually see here that we've got almost 300 people that are holding more than 7. Now, I'd usually say that there's going to be a price ceiling that'll come in, and there will at some point, but the fact that there are some higher value holders of this project, that's where I think that this has a little bit more run up when it comes down to a price ceiling. When we have a look at the top balances over time, this is what you want to see, just everyone accumulating or holding. They just keep adding to their bag, but we'll get over onto that when we have a look at the top 5 buying addresses. Smart money over time, this is a beautiful looking chart because everyone is in this, which is good to see. It shows that there are people holding not just a little bit, but a lot when it comes down to the smart money into this project. Now, having a look at the unique addresses, what we can see here, it just keeps adding more. Even though there are some large holders, it keeps kind of ticking up. Now, this would need to play out for about a week or so to kind of see where this kind of shakes out, because I am getting a feeling that some of these top holders and top people are actually kind of buying a little bit more. They might sell one, but then use that to kind of essentially scoop the floor and hold up their bag. With 6,200 of the 20, it's not a great distribution, but it's not a terrible distribution. When we have a look at the percentage holding one of the NFTs, 56%, which is a good number and a good hold. So if that 50 to 60% is a good number when it comes down to percentage holding one NFT. Now, when it comes down to the diamond hands, so essentially people that have not sold, what I find interesting is that we need to see another day or so to play out, but it's been a big run up, but it seems like people are actually holding onto this and they're not offloading. So they see a lot more run up and a lot more sort of runway when it comes down to pricing, when it comes down to this project. So this chart basically says it all and says that people are believers when it comes down to this project. Now, the next one is insane, and this is the profit leaderboard. Now, this is crazy because the very top person has taken sort of 340 ETH profit. Now, that is a bigger bag. That's a larger bag than anyone else would kind of imagine they could hold, and they're still in the project. The board 66 sold 58. Now we can see we've got a sort of 270, 230, and then essentially the top 20 rounds out with 100 ETH. So when it comes down to this project, people have made a lot of money, a lot of money. And what you'll see here is that number 3, they're out of the project, but this guy bought 17, sold 12, still in the project. Bought 60, sold 20, still in the project. There are a lot of people that are still in the project. Now, this is what I like to see when it comes down to a profit leaderboard. People are taking profits, they're taking some money off the table, but they're still in the project. They're essentially playing with house money. And because they've taken those profits off the table and they're still into the project, they see a long-term hold, and they keep this in essentially like their vault, and this is their long-term kind of legacy piece when it comes down to it. Now, when it comes down to the top 5 buying addresses, this is an absolutely crazy chart. What we can see is there is a lot of purchasing at around that sort of 5 to 10 ETH mark, so around where that price floor is. So you can see there is a lot of scooping, but sporadically put on the 13th, we can see that there is a big bunch of buying right here. So it shows that they're kind of picking and choosing what they actually want there. And then there are some insane outliers when it comes down to some of the other purchases that have been made. Having a look at where the smart money is bought. Now, this is no surprise. The smart money has bought in at around that sort of 5 to 10 ETH mark, but it does look like it's slowly creeping up. So it's showing that smart money was essentially FOMOing into the project when it comes down to what was actually happening with the project. So usually at this point, I'd be able to kind of give you an indication of where you can buy in, where a discount would be, but it's currently looking like as long as you can get something off the floor, you'll be buying in at a lower price because people are picking and choosing what they actually want to purchase for a long-term hold when it comes down to it, because you don't make a 100 ETH purchase or an 80 ETH purchase for the flip. You're most likely buying it for the long-term hold and the long-term legacy of your collection. Same with the smart money. Even though the smart money's in there, they were doing some purchases quite high and quite large when it comes down to what it is with what smart money would be buying. You would think smart money would be conservative, but smart money is actually kind of going a little bit crazy when it comes down to this project. And then when we have a look at the recent transactions, we can get a look at why the volume is so damn high. We can see here 2 minutes ago, 3 minutes ago. So over a 1 hour period, we're getting so much movement on the price. So the price floor can rise very fast if people don't list. And it's insane to see essentially sort of 30 to 40 sales within that 1 hour period. And that's what's contributing to these very high secondary sales volume, which is the 28,000 ETH. So I can see this continuing for another day or so and then starting to taper off. So I think we will get to around that 32,000, 35,000 ETH worth of volume traded, which does seem appropriate. And then the sales will start to slow out once everyone's kind of offloaded some of their holdings. So what do I think of CloneX and where it's currently going? I think that this is lining up to be a blue chip asset and something that any good collector would need to have in their collection. And this is prominent because people are actually kind of essentially buying out pieces and one-off pieces that do represent traits that they kind of have or want to see in their collection. So that's why it feels like a longer term hold. If all of these were being scooped off a floor, then I think it would be a flip mentality. But the fact that it's coming down to some crazy outlier purchases, it kind of shows me that people are in this for the long term, and people are kind of like maybe buying and flipping some, but picking some heavy pieces that they essentially want in their vault. Now, when it comes down to buying CloneX and getting it in your collection, I think right now, unless you are a big heavy player in this system, this is worth sitting out because it is a sizable bag for a lot of people when it comes down to it. I won't be buying in on any of this on the secondary market because the swings and the plays with this are just well above my pay grade when it comes down to collecting and putting these in a collection. Now, what I will say is there was an announcement when it came down to licenses and CloneX, and we can see here that licenses have two types of licenses: CloneX without the Murakami drip, and then the ones with it do not contain the commercial license. So initially this wasn't taken very well by the community because this should have been announced beforehand, because then people could have understood what they could do with their NFT, because having a license to kind of commercialize your NFT is almost a given in this current state. But overall, I don't think this plays too much into it. I essentially think that this will kind of, in a few months' time, this isn't going to be too much of an issue. But right now, that was causing a little bit of a fuss. Another thing I wanted to announce is that Artifact is now a part of the Nike family. Nike essentially bought Artifact Studios. So this is also most likely playing a little bit into it. I wouldn't say wholeheartedly, but I'd say there are just these little aspects which do kind of kick forward and push the needle a little bit more. But overall, I hope you found value in this deep dive and analysis of the reveal of CloneX and the statistics that you can kind of see there. If you found value in this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really does help out with the YouTube algorithm. Also, while you're down there, hit up that like button because it does help out. As always, it's been a pleasure having you with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.